Being a reader can be very expensive, and not all of us have like that coin to drop on buying new hardcovers at Barnes& Noble. As for me, I am cheap. So I thought that I would go through all the ways that I've learned how to save money on books throughout the years and still do the same amount of reading. So there's different approaches to trying to save money for reading. There's things where you're just going out because generally you want a book, but you don't know which one. And there's times when you're looking for a specific book and looking to save money on that. For the former, when you're just looking for any book, I like to start at a thrift store. Usually I go to Goodwill. Those are where I find a lot of deals on things that were bestsellers a few years ago that I never got to read, or on like classics. At Goodwill, I found this copy of Jane Eyre, which is my favorite book, so I have a lot of copies and I need to stop. But The Help, which I'd always wanted to read, I got that for $1.99. This was one of my favorite childhood books, Elle Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. And I have my own copy, but this is the copy that I first read when I was in school. And I got this for 59 cents. And this copy of Persuasion by Jane Austen, which is literally in perfect condition. And I got it for $2. So I like to do Goodwill for that. There's also half-price books, places like that, like used bookstores. And I find that those places don't tend to be as cheap as you would think, but it is still a discount at any rate. Another thing I forgot to mention about half-price books is that you can bring your old books that you want to get rid of there, and you can get at least a few dollars for what you spent. I know it's not like a lot. I think the most I've ever gotten there was like $20, and that's when I donated probably 60 books. So it's not a lot, but it is something, and you can use it in store to buy new books. And you do sometimes find books that are copies that are more interesting than you would at like Barnes & Noble. Like I got this copy of A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf at Half Price Books, I think for about $6, and I really love this copy. I just really like the art on it. I also found this copy of The Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath, which I really like. So next of all is a resource that a lot more people should utilize because it's literally free books, and that's the library. I know everyone knows what a library is, but I think some people forget they exist. But if you can, definitely sign up for a library card. And going to the library is really fun, but if you don't want to go to the library, you can do apps like Libby or Overdrive, which allows you to rent ebooks and audiobooks. I really like these apps, which I just discovered last year, because I'm in college now, so I don't get to go to my local library very much anymore. But I do love getting to just get a new book, and also because I don't have a lot of space in my new living situation, so it's nice to have something like that. I have grown to love my Kindle, and over time I read a lot more on here. There are some drawbacks to apps like Libby because I don't know why it's like this, but the loan times aren't as long as a normal library. They usually start at 7 days, which is 2 weeks shorter than a regular library book. So that is a drawback, but I actually kind of like that because it makes me, it forces me to read faster than I normally would. And you can, if no one has it on their waiting list, you can renew it as many times as you need. So I don't find that to be that much of a drawback. But yeah, in conclusion, I love Libby. I love the library. There's nothing like it. Next, there's online retail websites. My favorite, and I know that some people talk about it, but I've been using it for years, and enough people don't use it. Bookoutlet.com. I don't even understand how they're allowed to charge this low of prices. I think it's publishers have an excess of books, and they're allowed to sell them for up to 75 to 80% discounted, and they're brand new books. What? I don't know, but I'm glad it exists. I've been using Book Outlet for years, but the one thing that I'm still like working with is that because they're so cheap, I find myself buying a lot of books that I don't actually need or want really, but I'm just like, it's $2, I'll have it. But especially once you like move out of your parents' house into like a very tiny living space, you realize how much of a physical burden books are if you don't actually like want them or have a place for them. So be cautious with that, but recently I really like checking Book Outlet first if there's like a specific book I really want. They don't have every book, but it's worth a check to see if you can save like $8 on a book. I like going there for books that I'm like not as sure that I want. So like Show Your Work. A book like this has a lot of pictures and not that much text, and that feels like kind of a waste of money to me to pay full price for something where I'm gonna finish reading it I'm gonna finish reading it so much faster. And all they do on Book Outlet is they mark it with like a little marker thing. I guess if that bothers you, then Book Outlet's not for you. That does not bother me at all. Other books I've gotten from there are one of my childhood favorites. This one is kind of messy, but again, I don't care. Wuthering Heights, because like, what if I hate it, you know? And then this contemporary retelling of Jane Eyre, which I still haven't read. That's a common pattern with all of these books. But yeah, I love Book Outlet. I definitely go there usually first if I'm looking to buy a book new. There's also Book Depository, which I think a lot more people are familiar with. The discounts on Book Depository are not quite as like intense as on Book Outlet, but one thing I do like about Book Depository is there are many different like fun editions of books that you can get instead of just like whichever one happens to be available at like Barnes & Noble or like Book Outlet. So I really like Book Depository too, but I use it less often. So yeah, those are pretty much all my ideas for saving money on books. I think that like when I was younger and first was starting to get super into reading, like in middle school, I was very influenced by BookTube into thinking that like I have to own a lot of books to be considered like a proper reader, or like I have to prove how much I like to read by owning every single book that I could read. And it just like doesn't have to be that way, and honestly, like, who cares? You know? Like, don't get me wrong, like I love owning books. I love having my favorites like near me. I love looking at them. I feel like it gives me a lot more ideas and like inspires me. So like, I'm not saying don't own books, but I'm definitely learning to be more conscious of like which books I actually want to spend my limited money on. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, and if you want to subscribe, I won't tell you to, but like you can if you want. That's all I got. Bye.